So Sadiq Khan gets elected mayor of London a decade ago. Call it a decade. So he gets elected a decade ago, and now you've got this huge deterioration of London in that time frame where he's been mayor. All of a sudden, we're seeing at the same time New York City suddenly has Zoran Mandami, a name that none of us have heard before. And I think that's kind of a similar trajectory from Sadiq Khan. I mean, had he been someone who was really part of the national discourse prior to that?
No, I don't know. I don't think he had. I mean, I certainly don't really remember him. I mean, I think he was a pretty low level Labour politician, and then he was put forward in the London mayoral race. The Conservatives fielded, I think, Zach Goldsmith, who is the son of a former Conservative politician. But Sadiq Khan won, and it's been all change ever since. I mean, London's been going downhill for a long time, for probably for the better part of at least 25 years. And I think that's probably true of New York too. I think that you had some of the decline was arrested by Rudy Giuliani, with his kind of very tough on crime measures. But actually, I think what this fits into is a broader pattern of decline, but it's accelerating. And there's absolutely no doubt that crime in London is far, far worse under Sadiq Khan. Since 2016, London has taxed more than ever. Sadiq Khan has brought in, for instance, fairly recently, this ultra low emission zone tax. So now not only do you have to pay a congestion charge to go into the centre of London, you also have to pay this ultra low emission zone, this ULEZ tax, which is enforced with these special cameras that they've mounted on the streets. So you're effectively getting like a double whack of tax every time you go into London from the ring road, the M25 that runs around London. Londoners are paying more and more for declining living standards. It's obvious. Londoners all talk about it. If you get in a taxi in London and you actually happen to have a British taxi driver now, because a lot of them are Somali and foreign and they don't even speak English, but if you speak to a traditional London cabbie, he'll say, London isn't the same city. London is going to the dogs. That's normally what they'll say. And it looks like, 25 years after 9/11, New York is going to have a Muslim mayor. And I think that is not only indicative of trends in America more broadly with mass immigration, but also in particular trends in New York. You've had New York flooded with migrants, these sanctuary policies. You've had a kind of soft on crime approach. And New York has changed so much that now, yes, 25 years since 9/11, it's conceivable that actually you'll have a Muslim mayor.
Well, and this is what's interesting too, is because you see this it's actually a tripling of South Asian, so Indian, Pakistani, and Middle Eastern immigration to the New York City metro area has tripled since that time of 9/11. It's gone up and absolutely skyrocketed since then. And so people point out, say, well, wait a minute, the exact coalition that Mamdani was able to put together, I said, well, it's not just all immigrants. I said, no, it isn't. But the effect of mass immigration has created a sense where, because I saw some other, social scientists were kind of disagreeing with my analysis. They said, well, wait a minute, what about the blacks and Hispanics? Because they largely voted for Andrew Cuomo. And the point is you've sort of got old New York versus new New York, because he's able to peel off the Gen Zers who can now vote. So you're 18 to 29. He's able to peel off your white theater kid liberals, and he's able to pull off something like 80% of the South Asian vote. And that's simply a coalition that's able to defeat the previous working class and, with somewhat of a Wall Street backing type candidate like a Cuomo. So new New York is actually beating old New York. And this is very similar to what we saw in London a decade ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the demographic changes that have taken place in London have, like you say, they've pushed out old London, if you will. They've pushed white English people, white British people out to the margins of the city and even beyond the city into neighbouring counties like Essex and Kent. You've seen a wholesale demographic replacement in the city. And of course, it's changed the politics. And so, of course, it's changed the politics in New York as well. Working class neighborhoods, working class voters don't matter. Class as a mobilizing force isn't key here. It's identity politics. And that includes, like you said, the white Gen Z and millennials. And it's important, actually, I think, to understand that although, Gen Z, white Gen Z and millennial voters haven't been sort of put into New York through mass immigration, their opinions, their values, nevertheless, have been massively, I think, affected and determined by mass immigration.